Good morning, everyone. Hold on just a second. Like I said, one man show, I got to keep fixing things as I go along. But I do have my coffee cup, and yes, it is caramel cream. So, good morning to everyone. Top of the morning to you. Hopefully, the sound's okay. I'm using quite a different setup this morning, and the reason for that is that I think the acoustics in this particular spot are a lot better. So, um, I thought that would be wise. However, the microphone is just a little further away from me because I don't have my table in front of me. I have it on the side so the camera has a straight shot. So, at any rate, good morning. Today is the 30th of April. I have a feeling that today and tomorrow are going to be significant. I hope I'm wrong, but regardless, I think you can tell from the title of this that we're under a total offensive, and I'm afraid that Trump is leading the way. Whether or not he's doing it wittingly or unwittingly doesn't matter. There are no excuses at this point. One other thing I have to do is reach further over to put my coffee cup down. Okay, well, I don't want to start off on a bad note this morning. Welcome as you come in. I'm glad that you're here. Oh, we got JL. Oh, we can get rid of you right now, too. JL. All right, you're gone, JL. We don't need to hear from people like you. All right, bye. And if my mods are here, I haven't warned any of them. He just called me a traitor. Thank you for the 5x5, Marshall. I appreciate it. Trying to be in the business of holding your elected officials' feet to the fire is going to cause ire amongst those who are the real dissenters against the Constitution, against the Bill of Rights, and also, of course, they are our enemies, unfortunately. I don't mind disagreements on politics, but those kinds of statements, we don't need them. And I think that, whenever you point a finger at yourself under a situation like that without any evidence, quite contrary to the evidence, you have those fingers pointing back at you. Okay, enough of that. I don't care what anybody else says. We'll just leave it alone for now. I'm going to start off, before I get into the things that are disturbing me today and probably you as well. I did that video yesterday to try to explain a little bit more about the Son of Righteousness, S-U-N, as opposed to S-O-N, the Son, in Hebrew, and I hope that made some sense to you. There are some problems with that scripture and how it was used even in the New Testament, that people misunderstand it. Let me explain, and I did this to a lady on Twitter yesterday. I won't mention her name for her own privacy's sake. But when they were translating Isaiah, where it says, O Lucifer, thy son of the morning, how hast thou fallen, the word Lucifer is nowhere in the Hebrew. As I've explained many, many times, it's Hillel ben Shakar. And Shakar means bright, of the morning. Hillel ben Shakar means bright star of the morning. But Shakar in that term is a reflective term. It's almost a darkness, actually. If you look it up in the Hebrew, it's actually talking about that darkness, that reflective darkness. So he doesn't have light of his own. Well, when they use the same phrase in Revelations, and they said, that Jesus is the bright star of the morning, that's why they had to change the name of bright star of the morning in Isaiah to Lucifer, which is a Latin word. It doesn't even fit. So that's one problem. The other one is on this thing in Malachi, where it says the sun, S-U-N, basically in the Hebrew, Shemesh, will rise with healing in his wings. And in the scriptures of the New Testament, they try to apply that under the use of word dayspring to send it back to Malachi and link it that Jesus is that term. No, Jesus might use the sun, but it's definitely not talking about him, and I think I explained that pretty well. These types of things were done by the monks when they were translating, and so we have those types of euphemistic errors and deliberate mistranslations, whether you like to hear that or not. That's the case. But I had a friend call me up the other day, and he said, well, what about this thing about fearing the Lord? What about that? Now, I'm not going to do a sermon today, but I think these two things are kind of important. The the Old Testament has a word that translates in two ways depending upon the context. Now remember, there are those who love the Lord, and there are those who hate him and his laws and his spiritual discipline, if we'll want to call it that. So this word in Hebrew can apply, and if you look it up in Strong's and then look it up in the Gesenius, which is the Hebrew lexicon, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. In context, when God says, for those who, it's usually translated, for those who fear my name, I will take care of them, that kind of thing. In that context, the actual word Yahweh means awe. In other words, those who are in awe of my name. Because what did Gabriel say to Mary when he appeared to her? He said, "Fear not, Mary, fear not." Because it's kind of startling to have this being, show up, didn't come through the door or whatever, not her husband. Fear not. For those who have God's law in their hearts and minds, they have an awe for God, not a fear. The fear is for those, and it can translate that way in context, for those that hate God, that hate principle, that hate truth. You see how that works? So I wanted to talk about that just for a couple of minutes this morning so that you know that for those of you who aren't out deliberately doing evil, who aren't choosing to do evil, you might make a mistake once in a while, you might take advantage of somebody once in a while, but you're not doing it because you have an evil heart, you just make a mistake. You are in awe of God. And if you're not, go out on a walk in the forest and really let the things sink into your soul. The air, the smells, the sky, the trees, the plants, the animals that you see. Let that sink into your heart and into your mind and see that these are great gifts and that these other people that we're going to talk about today are trying to destroy God's creation because they're all Nimrods in their heart. Okay? I just wanted to bring that up so that you all would know. The rest of this is going to be kind of ad-libbed. There's just too much to cover anymore. I mean, I just can't believe what's happening. So first order of business, I know everybody wants to hear about Flynn. You can get that from somebody else. There are a lot of people talking about it. Flynn was railroaded. There's no doubt about it. There's an argument amongst lawyers, attorneys, that, well, the issue isn't what the FBI did. The issue is that Flynn lied. No. He pled that under duress. And so, the whole thing against Flynn was a setup, and it was criminal behavior by the Department of Justice and the FBI. I'm not going to argue it any further than that. You can go listen to Sidney Powell. You can go listen to Dan Bongino. You can go listen to John Solomon. You can go listen to Greg Jarrett, whomever. And then look at the other side, like these New York Times people and these other attorneys that are trying to make this stick. It's clear. And the only difference between those two sides is evil, okay? It's just flat out evil and trying to sustain the corrupt system, the corrupt criminal system, rather than fixing it. And Trump is not fixing it, I'm sorry. He's now, coming out, was a terrible thing what happened to Flynn. Hey, he didn't stick up for Flynn when Vice President Pence came in and said, your NSA over here, he lied to the FBI. I don't know that Trump brought him in and talked to him about it or not, but basically he summarily fired him. That looks like a setup along with Trump for me. And that's why I said earlier on that I think General Flynn was nothing more than another campaign slogan for Trump. Like, drain the swamp and lock her up and all those things. He got rid of him because, even Flynn might find out what was going on in the White House. And what do I base that on? Everything that's happened since the day President Trump was elected. Everything. He's done some good things economically, supposedly. Did away with the TPP, supposedly, but they're doing these other trade agreements. The trade agreement between Canada and Mexico basically, screws us over. We lose our sovereignty there. So the fact of the matter is all these things that appear good really aren't, in fact. So what happened yesterday, okay, we're going to put the Flynn thing aside, okay? Yeah, that's a travesty, it's corrupt, it's criminal, what the FBI and DOJ did, but there's lots of information out there. I want to go to this other thing. And I put it up on my Twitter yesterday, and I also put it in the community messages here. And I just want to talk about them for a minute. I use my phone for notes now. Isn't that just great? Okay. Brian of well, golly, a lot of people have done it. Brian of High Impact Vlogs and Nancy Morgan Hart of Headlines with a Voice have all addressed this, and I addressed it yesterday in my community logs. It's about Trump's Operation Warp Speed. Operation Warp Speed. If you're not up to snuff on this, if you're not up to speed, you got to look at this. Okay, Google it and see what's going on. Trump is pushing the vaccine to be ready no later than January and possibly late summer. He's not for us, ladies and gentlemen. He's in on it, and this type of thing proves it. He keeps doing these things. The project targets enough doses for most Americans by January, and you're going to be forced to take it, or you're not going to be able to go to work, get on a plane, get on a train, probably not even travel from one city to another. It might get that bad. Trump is doing this, and this is going to involve the surveillance system that Jared Kushner is working on right now. And in fact, they always tell you they're working on it when in fact it's already in place. They're just getting you ready. This type of thing is inexcusable if Trump really meant what he meant during his campaign. Has he been beaten down so much that he just gives in now? Well, if that's the case, he needs to tell us. But he's not. Because the very first thing he said, and Nancy Morgan Hart pointed this out yesterday as well, the first thing he said after he was president-elect regarding the Clintons was, they're good people. I'm sorry, but they're not good people. And to come out and say that, what principles is he using to make that statement? No. That was my first warning, and of course the second was the situation with, General Flynn, and then we have the situation with him constantly putting swamp creatures in his administration with all the excuses. Well, who else is he going to ask? Who else will help him out? Well, we don't need that kind of help, right? And then there was the situation with the missiles into Syria when he's trusting the very intelligence agencies that lied to him in the first place and were spying on him, and he knew it. And then, of course, the take the guns first and then due process. And following that, what happens? Operation Guardian. He and Barr, he's pushing Barr to do Operation Guardian, which is total surveillance on you and the red flag laws, and to decide if you're a threat to yourself or others based upon your post. Like if you say, the things that we talk about here, this government needs to be disciplined. This government needs to stop their criminal behavior. That could be considered, like it was in Russia, to be psychologically unstable statements. You see how they're using this. They did the same thing with terrorism. I've talked about it before. They made terrorism look like the kind of guys that were doing the Israeli attacks, the attacks on the Israeli athletes in Munich, right? With the hoods and, just shooting people up discriminately, lying, et cetera, et cetera. That's what everybody's viewpoint of a terrorist is, and I've explained before. That all morphed until now. It's whatever the government says it is. They don't even, whatever they say it is, they can accuse you of terrorism and come and take you out of your home based on no evidence whatsoever. You think I'm kidding? No, we're that far along. So Trump is not helping us, and he's pushed all that and a lot more. So I wanted to bring that up. Go look up Operation Warp Speed. He's pushing the vaccines. He's keeping Fauci around, who's already been shown to help the Wuhan lab get this stuff. He used federal money that was forbidden to go there to do it. He probably did it around I'm not sure exactly how the finances worked, but it doesn't matter. It was his intent to get around the requirement not to do that. Right? Bricks, I used to think she was halfway smart, but now I'm not so sure. But all of this is with Gates behind the scenes and pushing a vaccine, and he's not even a doctor. What the heck? Why isn't he being arrested for practicing medicine? This is out of hand, and all that Barr is doing is stroking you, ladies and gentlemen. Durham might be serious, but I don't think Barr's going to let it go forward. We're hearing all this information now that Durham's looking and he's going after these people and whatever. Well, again, once I see it, I might believe it, and they might take a few down to satisfy the masses, to satisfy those who are upset about this. But they're not going to get the big people, ladies and gentlemen. If they were, they would have gotten Hillary already. And Obama's working behind the scenes. There was some information that came out just oh, I don't know, about a year ago that I missed. I kind of heard about it, but Obama was meeting with people in the UN. Why was Obama meeting with them? He's not a president. He's not a political figure. He's a has-been, or is he? Why is he behind the scenes still negotiating all these things? Something's not right, and I think we all know it. And the guy in the White House is not helping us out any. Okay. I do want to mention another thing here, and I didn't put it in the description box. TruthStream Media did an excellent piece, and it's called Technological Resurrection and the Future of Being. This is kind of getting back to some spiritual stuff, kind of, but not really. I don't want to get into it a lot of depth because I don't want to take away from those two very good people. So just go see it. It's TruthStream Media is the name. You should know who it is. They used to work for Alex Jones. And the particular video is called Technological Resurrection and the Future of Being. And what I put out, both on Twitter and my community board, is this. This is a very important 35-minute video. This is where they, the powers that be, want to take you. As I have been pointing out for some time, the typical traditional Christian concept of heaven is exactly what this is. In other words, it's a form of hell. And that's going to make some people very upset. But if you've been listening to what I have to say about these biblical passages and the disagreements in there about your state, I don't mean, the state you live in, I mean about your personal state, your personal existence, you'll see that there's a problem. These guys, if you go listen to this, I'm just going to give you a real quick rundown on what it is. My last sentence there is, something has sold Satan's imitation to many. They set up a world where you don't have to worry about eating. You don't have to worry about personal relationships. Not even love. Love is gone. It becomes unnecessary, these people say. What it involves is giving up your physical existence, and you've heard probably Alex Jones and others talk about this, and placing your consciousness in this computer system, where you're in a nirvana, a perpetual nirvana, which also, in my estimation, is actually a form of hell. So the loss of your individuality isn't going to heaven. Okay? That's what they're creating. And if you want to understand who else is teaching that concept, no marriage in heaven, no male and female, the way that they've interpreted those scriptures, as I've talked about before, go to your church. And if they're teaching what they are about, you float on a cloud, you don't have anything to do, all you do is just worship God. That's what they do here. You worship the AI. That's the only thing you have contact with is the AI. You don't really even have contact with other people. Oh, you have instantaneous communications, like I talked about. The way God does it is different than the way these electronic demons are doing it. But you see, when they control the communication, it controls who you have communication with. So those are demonic systems, and they're putting them into place, and they've been teaching them in traditional and in even some esoteric religions for a long time. They're wrong. If they're telling you that, they're fighting against God's creation. They're fighting against what God made you to be. And remember, I said I wasn't going to give sermons. I quoted a guy from the other day who said, God loves you just the way you are, but he also loves you enough to try to make you better. Okay, so I just wanted to bring that up. Okay, another thing that happened. I did not send the information to Scott Anthony, who might be listening here, or anybody else, when I first got it. I was about the same time that I was saying that it looks like the Antichrist has made his appearance. Not to the general public. That's not how it works. He goes to the leaders first. This was all talked about in the 1800s during these secret societies, that this guy will come to the leaders of the nations first. He will show himself to them, and then, once they're all ready, then he'll make his grand appearance to the world, to the general population. So I got that idea of with the Pope relinquishing the Vicar of Christ, the whole situation with the presidency, the things that are going on with the royal house in Britain, the supposed, the actual, they're imposters, but you know what I'm talking about. Well, about a week ago, it's been a little over a week ago, I had a friend send me a situation that there were 5 Airbuses, aircraft at JFK Airport, and they did not have call signs. Now, I just sat on that. Okay, I just sat on it. And then yesterday, when this happened, the UN building took all the national flags down. And we have a picture. If you haven't looked at this, let me put this up to the camera and see if you can see it. I hope you can. I don't know if, I know the light's probably in the way. Okay. Let's see if that'll work. And I know that's not really clear. Probably didn't work. So they got information that all the national flags were taken down. And then this person who put up this tweet said that they went and checked. Her name, if you want to go look, is Valerie Gilbert, at Valerie B. Gilbert on Twitter. I'll just read this. Somebody asked, "Is this true?" And Valerie Gilbert says, "And Anon had posted that UN flags were down. I just confirmed it in person. What does it mean? Interesting." Well, those Airbuses arrived at JFK just a few days ago with no call sign. You see where I'm going? Now, my friend last night, when I talked to her about this, she said, "Oh, don't make a video about this." Well, I'm not saying it's absolutely true, but what I am telling you is that there are a lot of strange things going on. Now, I mentioned Scott Anthony a few minutes ago. He's an expert at looking at all of the different flight patterns and the planes and the airports. He really helped during the Las Vegas shooting thing, as did Shepard Ambellis of IntelliHub, as did Monograph. he got into this too. So Scott Anthony and another individual, who I probably won't mention here because, again, their privacy, asked me to give them the information. So I sent the screenshot of the plane with no call sign at JFK, and there were apparently 4 others. So they can look at it from there. Hopefully they'll dispel any concerns that we should have about this. But all of these things are not by accident, and they're not coincidence. Unfortunately, as the title of this thing says, this is moving into a total offensive against us. And Trump is doing nothing to stop it. Oh, he's shoring up the beef industry or the meat industry, right? How are you going to, if people really are sick, how are you going to bring them to work? He's sent out this, he's basically nationalizing under the auspices of the fear of this virus, which is really no different than anything else we've ever had. He's under the auspices, the cover of this virus. He's nationalizing businesses. Do you understand what that is when you nationalize a business? It's socialism, ladies and gentlemen. You remember back when he said, "We will never be a socialist country"? I'm beginning to think that whenever Trump says something like that, he's just telling us that's where we're going. Oh, I'm for your Second Amendment, and he's done nothing to protect it. He's run a few tweets. He has Barr now saying, well, you can't take away people's rights over the virus, but we don't see any real action. These are all just stopgaps to keep you thinking that something's going to happen. So he's attacking us on all these different fronts. We're now turning our nation into a socialist nation. Now, I want to say again, I am not one that thinks that our economic system is a good one, because it's so easily loaded down with crony capitalism. I know that. This whole fiat system, we were supposed to be Republican. And I don't mean by the party. I mean, we were supposed to be a Republican form of government. In other words, bring all of these things down to the lowest possible level so they're closest to the people. But over the years, particularly since the Civil War, but then particularly after 1913, so much has gone just to the federal government. Now, there's a problem with little tyrants in the states, like Newsom right now in California. Right, just as an example, or the Michigan governor, people like that, or Northam for that matter. But there are other ways for the federal government to approach that, and that is what? Violations of the Bill of Rights, because the federal government can get involved in that. The Interstate Commerce Clause and how the federal government can be involved in that, I could talk about that a little bit. Frankly, I think that thing has been abused by and large. But I think if a state starts to, and maybe Mark Pantano might be able to explain this, or Chris Ann Hall, but if there's a state that is deliberately interfering with interstate commerce as a method of political war, I think that changes things a little bit. Okay? I'm not going to get into that other than to say, just bottom line, the federal government has too much power and they're doing just way too much to hurt us. And too many governors are going along with it, and mayors and police officers. I don't have respect for law enforcement officers just because there's a city ordinance now, or even a state statute that says people can't be in, or regulation, you can't be in parks, you can't be on the beaches. That's where you should be when you're sick. This is obviously designed to do two things: keep us inside where we're slaves to this, and number two, take away our human contact. They're destroying humanity, ladies and gentlemen, and they're starting here. This is going on in China. China's the model, and now they're bringing that here. And what's Trump doing? He says that he's friends with Xi. I know there's all this background noise about, the war with China, and, how terrible Trump thinks they handled things, and, the Wuhan lab, which actually came from our people that gave it to the Chinese. He's not talking about that. He said it. He's intimated it, but he's not done anything about it. Oh, it takes time to investigate these things. No. Fauci should be in handcuffs right now and being brought before a judge with the evidence already against him. I hear people say, Trump's moving forward. Barr's got Durham and he's got Jensen, and all this information's coming out. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't think any of that would have happened if it hadn't been for Judicial Watch, and Sidney Powell. If they hadn't come along, you wouldn't see any of this happening, but they've got to cover their tracks to make it look like they're doing something. I'm from Missouri. When I see somebody in bracelets being perp walked, then I'll know that it's serious. But that doesn't even mean that they'll do the job to get them convicted. No, the evidence has been out there for a long time, and Durham's dragging his feet is my estimation, and he's doing so. If he isn't doing so, he's being braked. The brakes are being put on by Barr. Jensen's done a great job, but again, Sidney Powell was uncovering that information, and Judicial Watch has been talking about it. Not to mention others, John Solomon, etc. He's not really an investigator; he just reports. But the point is that what is with our DOJ, that they have to be prodded in the rear end by these individuals who are willing to put their lives and livelihood on the line for the truth, because the government is against us. They're involved in this. I am convinced of it. They're all involved in it, or primarily many of them. And the offensive is in full swing right now. They're attacking your food supply. I mean, we're getting down to the nitty-gritty here. Not only are you going to have to ask permission to go to the store, or they'll deliver things to you. And I know we're going to drop all of this. We're going to open the states. How are they opening the states? How are the different states doing it? They're still keeping a lot of these draconian measures in place. It's to keep they're giving you a little leash. They're letting out the leash a little bit, but they're not releasing it. And it's like I said when this whole thing started. They've got us now. Why would they let us go? No. And today and tomorrow are going to be real critical in my estimation. It's the way I view it anyway. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I am, but I don't think so. I think we've got some real problems coming down the pike here, and it's really, really bad. So I hope you're ready. I hope you're prepared. Let me find a little thing here and see if I've got anything else I wanted to cover. No, I think that's probably it. One more place I want to check here. Like I say, I don't write a script for these things. I'd rather just let you know that I really do think about these things as a matter of course. And so I don't prepare a whole lot. Maybe that's not nice for you all, but that's kind of how I do it. Oh, well, I might mention this. Getting back on the Flynn thing and the whole Russiagate, which apparently was all again a show. I maintain now that Trump knew that Clinton and they all met, Clinton, Obama, all of these people, maybe not Brennan, but all these people met and said, okay, who wants the job of fooling the American people and putting on a show? And they said, Trump, how about you? I really honestly think that's the way it went down now. That was the plan. There isn't any plan to free us. That's not happening. Or Trump wouldn't be pushing this vaccine, amongst other things. So I think Trump was in on it from the beginning. He's never going to go after Hillary Clinton because they're friends. Plus, they're part of this whole New World Order system under a pretense that he was going to be our champion. And it's turned out to be exactly the opposite. But Maria Bartiromo put out this the other day, and I think some of you know about this. But here's another situation. Who was actually in control of Mueller? Was Trump really that totally out of the loop? Was he really not able to control any of this? Let me read this to you. This is a tweet that she put out on the 27th. We know Mueller's office did not find any evidence of Russian collusion, but did you also know that charges that Mueller's team brought against 12 Russian nationals were quietly dropped last month? Unreal. If Barr and Durham do not collar people, and pretty damn soon, we're getting too dang close to the election. I don't believe this is a political ploy to spring on the whole country right before the election. It's as I said, it looks like, along with this virus situation, everything's been kicked down the road to get us to this place, and they're ready to drop the hammer on us. That's how I view it. Is that pessimistic? It's obviously not good news, but why would I hold back on telling you how I really view it? Whether it makes any difference to you or not doesn't matter, but I'm going to say it. Another thing that came out, I think that's pretty important on this whole Wuhan virus thing. Listen to this. This is from a person on Twitter called @Skywatcher. The flu and pneumonia has killed more per week and month total than COVID-19 since October. Why hasn't the CDC recommended Tamiflu? Why is CDC padding numbers? Because Trump relies on professionals. A germaphobe, talking about Trump, they say that here. Why is CDC padding numbers? Because Trump relies on professionals. A germaphobe, and the 5 states' worst hit states are 5 governors who want to see Trump destroyed. Fact. Well, I'll change that around a little bit. They might personally not like Trump, but what they're really after is to put in a socialist, Marxist, authoritarian system, those governors. They're doing it. So when they say they're attacking Trump, ladies and gentlemen, just turn that around and say they're attacking me. You say that about yourself. They're attacking me. They're attacking the Constitution. They're attacking the Bill of Rights. And Trump's not doing anything to stop that. Not in reality. I like Gigi Sims on Twitter. I talk about her a lot. I said I wasn't going to go back on the Flynn thing, but she's been putting out some great stuff. Sidney Powell has. Technofog has, if you follow them on Twitter. Undercover Huber, as a lot of you have heard me talk about, The Last Refuge, and Monograph. Monograph goes on to a monologue kind of like I do, and he doesn't get necessarily on the details. Gigi Sims is very succinct. So if you're not following her on Twitter, do that. It's @1Gigi Sims. You can look it up. But this is what she says here that's going on, and this was posted just a few days ago. Sidney's final words, talking about Sidney Powell on the Flynn case. This case is a shameful blight on the American justice system. The first duties of the officers of the law are to prevent, not to punish crime. It is not their duty to incite to and create crime for the sole purpose of prosecuting and punishing it. I've seen that in my whole career. And we know about them going out and getting these poor mentally deficient people and convincing them to do something, either take part in an exercise, they think they're part of an exercise, or prod them to do a crime so that they can come in, the FBI and the DOJ, and be the big saviors. It's all a sham, ladies and gentlemen. They're not going after the real criminals. Where are the MS-13 roundups? Nah. Where's the immigration enforcement? You're losing your jobs, your livelihood, and they're attacking your food supply, and they're bringing people outside the country to do those jobs. Why? Because you're the target, not even Trump. And Trump knows it. I heard a farmer, did you see the video with the rancher from Texas talking to you about having to close down they're going to euthanize their beef? It's happened to the chickens. Yeah, let's see what that is. Okay, I'm not sure what that was. Hopefully I've got power here. Let me make sure that isn't a problem. Sometimes it is. Nope, it looks good. Okay, I don't know what that was. I'm not going to worry about it. So this rancher is talking about beef, pork, and poultry. They're euthanizing them. We've heard about the poultry farms burning down, whether that was arson because they can't afford it anymore, or whether it was government activity or PETA, whatever, I don't know. But the point is that those things are happening. But it's not just the meat supply. They're also plowing under vegetables by the millions of tons. Ladies and gentlemen, this is evil. This is just downright evil. And so what's the answer? Not to open the country back up. No, because the damage has already been done. Why stop now? Why would the New World Order stop now? No, it's to nationalize these things again under a socialist system. The government is the answer to everything, not individual efforts, which have proven in the past to be the way to go. And that's the good part of our system. Individual efforts to accomplish things. But that's not the way it's going now. You're getting paid not to work. Do you realize that? So they're attacking the food supply, ladies and gentlemen. And I've talked about this for a long time. It's why I went to Bundy Ranch. Because in the end, the real issue there was, it was to give the land over to the Chinese and go through Harry Reid and his son, and Hillary was in there on the Uranium One thing as well. But to give that land to the Chinese, and then Harry Reid and his son and those criminals would get a cut of handing over our heritage, our inheritance to the Chinese. And that's happened all around the country. There's a place up in Idaho right outside of Boise like that. They don't even pay taxes up there in that area. I think it's about 10 square miles. You see what's happening here? So I went to Bundy Ranch to show how the federal government, like the BLM and the DOJ and the FBI, have been used to help the New World Order, not to help you Americans, which is their sworn oath. And they were doing it not just to take the land for the Chinese, but to destroy the food supply. It was a win-win situation. And now we see that they've moved into this phase. Get your food supply, but you're not going to be able to live on a food supply for very long if you can't grow food. So you're going to have to start gardens. You're going to have to do something. You're going to have to do something. And you're going to have to be able to do it all year, whether you have to build a small greenhouse or whatever. But you're going to have to take some action. You're going to have to take some action quickly. Okay, let me see if there's anything else here. Today is actually starting tonight through May 6th, but primarily tonight and through tomorrow is the Beltane Festival of the Luciferian Occultists. Go look that up. It's spelled Beltane. That's tonight. That starts at sunset tonight. It could start today. They could do some preliminaries today, but this is why I say I think something big is going to happen today and tomorrow. So what does it involve? Well, a lot of crazy things, but one of the parts that it does is human sacrifice. So Just be aware of that. I want you to go look at that and understand those things are going on. Okay, I'm not going to repeat. A lot of this stuff is kind of repeating kind of what I've already said. There's no sense in me, taking up a lot of your time. Let me check and see if I've gotten anything from Scott Anthony rather, on this thing with the airplanes to see if he's found out what that is. Okay, so you're seeing me do this in real time now. Let's see if he's sent me anything. I suspect he's a very busy guy. He might even be on the chat here. Let's just see if I've got anything here. No, I don't see anything from him yet. Let me go over here, double check here. Okay, I've not heard back from him or the other gentleman or person that I sent it to. So we're still up in the air as to what those things really may be. And I don't even know if they can find out. Okay, so that's where we are, ladies and gentlemen. When you take an inventory of everything that's happened over the last, get my coffee cup here, over the last 3 years, 3.5 years, almost 4 years, actually 4 years, you've seen the shift of how things go. You can say that Trump has just been inundated and he has traitors on every side. But ladies and gentlemen, who put him there? Who did he listen to? It's like I said, I think he's complicit in all this, and I think that the evidence proves it. As a matter of fact, I think if you went into court with just the you know how many people get convicted merely under circumstantial evidence? A lot of people think that you can't. No, you can't. And the circumstantial evidence alone against Trump, I think I could convict him of sedition against the United States. I think I could. All right, let's go ahead and go to your chat here. I'm going to be just to the left here, which is probably not good because that'll cover up. So let me bring it over this way. Here, I'll look at it like this. Is that better for those of you who have... yeah. Well, let's see. Actually, I think it'd be on this side, wouldn't it? I'm not real sure. But yeah, it'd be on this side. So I'm going to move over here so you can see the chat if you've got it coming up on the screen there. Trump is a Kabbalist. Could be. There are good Kabbalists and there are bad Kabbalists. Okay, there are people like Rabbi Aryeh Kaplan, who was a good Kabbalist, and then there are people like Aleister Crowley, who are bad ones. It's just like anything else, ladies and gentlemen. There's a right use of things, that's called righteousness, and there's an unrighteous use of something, and that's called wickedness or evil. So merely because it's like Catholicism. There are a set of vacantists right now, I think that's how you say it, who, they're Catholics, but they don't follow the Pope. They see the problem. So don't always lump people in because of, it's easy. Look at all the sides of it. Okay, yeah, Angela Rivas, I think that's right. They don't need us as slaves anymore. We're useless leaders, and they will now put us all down and use the robots and all that. Yeah, we're going into Elysium, and that's exactly what we're doing. This is hospice. That's funny. Okay, they're attacking my account settings. Can you believe that? Not directly on my computer, but apparently at YouTube. They're saying my account settings are out of date. Nah, they're not. Nah, they're not. So there might be some other interference here very shortly. Slaughtered on suspicion, 2014 YouTube. UK farmers decimated by foot and mouth. Neil Ferguson, Imperial College London computer model false. Same guy who did it. COVID 1984. Wonderful. Well, that figures. Not surprising. Remy Vonrud, this is a hellhole. Well, that's why we need to get the Spirit of God for ourselves, because I really do believe that at some point, I don't know when it's going to happen, but at some point, those of us who want to see the right thing, I think something incredible is going to happen, and I've talked about that before. It sounds really far out, but if it doesn't happen, we might as well just hang it up now. So you got to have a little faith, a little hope. And I've seen enough of what God does over the years that, He doesn't jump into a situation because this is our school. We're going to school here. You've heard other people talk about that, and I do believe that these evil people are here because they're like the demons in hell that constantly harass you and gnash their teeth on you and those things to see, to act as a discipline. Do you know what I mean? To see if you'll give in. You see what I mean? To test you. I really believe that's the way it is. But does that mean we succumb to them? Does that mean that we bow down to them? No, no, no. You must resist them with every fiber of your being. And I don't like to see the results sometimes. The physical, spiritual, emotional results. Look at what they've wrought here. Look at the babies they've killed, millions and millions and millions of them. They want to kill millions and millions and billions more, including the people that are already here. Yeah. Look at what Gates said. If we do a really good job on vaccines, we can reduce the world population. Does that sound like somebody who's trying to help people? Why is he practicing medicine? Why hasn't he been arrested or at least censored, at least brought in? As Lionel Nation said, Lionel and Ms. Lionel says, if I were the president, I'd bring Bill Gates in and I'd sit him down and say, you stop it right now. If you don't stop it, I'm going to take you out. I could do it right now, or you can, and we'll just get rid of you right now. I'm serious. It should go that far because this is a war. This is a war. Oh, would they go after Trump? Yeah. Well, but he needs to do that to everybody from Pelosi and Schumer on down. Obama, everybody. Holder. Look what Holder's doing. It was Holder's law firm that lied and messed up General Flynn's defense and did it knowingly with the DOJ and the FBI. Now, it's time to go to war with these people. And the fact of the matter is, Trump won't do it. Oh, he has nobody to do it there. Article 2, Section 2, Section 3. There are a lot of us out here. All he's got to do is call us. But he won't, so I'm not waiting for it. Pardon me for going out of the camera again. We are the new herd of cattle, always have been, and TM, whatever that is. A lot of these names are really interesting. Yeah, very good point, American Dad. Ask yourself why the villages started killing the vaccinators when they showed up to help, because they knew they were killing them. Exactly. And now Americans, the masks, and I talked about this the other day, you put a mask on, that's a surrender. That's training. That's Pavlovian. They're training you. And not to mention the fact that it doesn't protect you. Not really. It doesn't really protect anybody else. Not really. But it's cutting down on your oxygen supply, which is apparently the main problem with this disease, as is the case with most types of respiratory illnesses. Everything is counter to what it should be. Let's see if anybody in here has something specific to say. Lionel's an atheist, Star. I know. So what? I don't care. He has the Spirit of Christ in him still. He might not pronounce it, but I believe, from what I've seen from him, I believe he has the Spirit of Christ. The Spirit of Christ in him. I do. Somebody's telling me that there's no link. I don't know what she's talking about. It's kind of hard for me to follow some of this stuff. I'm apparently still transmitting, so that's apparently not the problem. Let's see what we got here. Pardon me just a second. Anyway, Lionel, he's constantly telling Trump that he needs to act, right? I don't care if he's an atheist. He's got the truth written in his heart and mind, even if he doesn't. Even if he doesn't have the understanding of the persona, the personality, that being, he definitely has God's. Do unto others as you would have them to do, and he may not know God, but he honors the truth. I do believe that, and that's all I ask. I don't ask anything. Masks are Sharia law. Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? Isn't that interesting? You're being forced into Sharia law. Yeah, you are. And it won't be long before you'll have to wear more than just a mask, right? Um, Somebody's saying oil field trash that Lina is still pushing Q. Nah, he's kind of he's not quite the way he used to be. As a matter of fact, he's coming down on the plan and all this type of stuff. He's been coming down on them for it. He doesn't want to pull back completely because he enjoys the puzzle. But I don't think he's quite as far behind it, as much behind it as you might be led to believe. But even if he is, I don't care if people follow Q. It's if they treat others in a bad manner because we don't follow Q. I don't give a damn about Q. I saw what it was after about, 2 months. I finally figured it out. Oh, I got caught into it because I've seen, as I said before, I've seen intelligence operations work like that before. But then those things happen. I'm not going to review them, but I've been out of it, since then. Okay. So if you want to follow Q, that's fine. But, this thing with vaccines, that should prove to you that Trump's not who Q says he is. Q is to make sure that the conservative base continues to be pacified by Trump. That's all it is. And it's definitely a leftist, Marxist, intelligence community, Clinton-backed, Obama-backed operation, and maybe Trump is involved as well. Yeah, but not for the good of the people, not for the good of America. I'm sorry, it's too far gone now. All right, let's see if there's anybody on here that's got some important information. That's okay. Starline L calls any belief system fantasy. That's all right. That doesn't bother me. He hasn't had a personal experience because he hasn't sought for it. But he's a good man, and that's it's obvious. All you got to do is listen to him. He has a good heart. That goes a long way. Remember the scripture that says, all manner of blasphemy will be forgiven unto man, even blasphemy against the Son of Man. But the blasphemy against the Holy Spirit, will not be forgiven unto man, neither in this world nor in the world to come. Why? Because somebody who, not having the emotion, that's not the Holy Spirit. Not having, it can be the beginnings of it. But what that scripture is talking about is having a sure knowledge. In other words, you're like Satan. You have a sure knowledge. God has revealed himself to you, and you become a son of perdition and assent again to the crucifixion of Jesus. That's what they're talking about. That takes knowledge, not a matter of faith. I'm sorry, it just doesn't star. So I don't hold those types of people in any low regard or judge them. I have a very good friend that is also an atheist. Very good friend. And you know what? He's the most Christian gentleman I know. No, God isn't going to throw him away. No way. I'm not going to repeat that one. That was funny. Yeah, I could repeat a lot of what you folks are saying. Oh, there you are, Nancy. Hi, good morning. You probably came on just now. We were talking about your last couple of videos. Okay, you can see that. I always bring you up. You know that. Okay. Okay. I think we've covered most everything. We've been going for almost an hour. This is very serious about Trump pushing these vaccines. Operation Warp Speed. Only he could come up with a name like that. Ladies and gentlemen, Trump has betrayed us. I don't care if he doesn't get reelected because it's not going to make any difference. Like I said the other day when I gave the video, that we really just need to get our hearts and minds right so that we can make it through this thing. And they're going to try to take a lot of us out. But we can't depend on men anymore. As a matter of fact, I often quote the scripture. It's in Jeremiah, where he says, cursed is, basically the translation is, cursed is he who trusts in the arm of flesh, or makes flesh his arm. We've tried this for how many thousands of years and it just doesn't work. Are we going to be able to get out of this system? Well, I guess, like an old friend of mine used to say, and a lot of other people have said, no, none of us are getting out of this alive. And people that, have the concept of the rapture and all that, which I've talked about before, it really has to do with opening the eyes and the ears. But, they might think differently, but I don't think it's going to go that way. There might be a point at which, like I've said, that we will have a download from the Creator, a massive one. And that's what I'm waiting for. But we just need to try to do the right thing, the good thing every day. And sometimes that's difficult to do, especially now. If you don't wear a mask, if you don't get the vaccine, if you don't get tested, and the tests, I think, are, if they're not tainted with the virus, they're tainted with nanotech and probably the vaccine mark anyway. That's where we've got to make our stand, and that's not going to be easy, ladies and gentlemen. A lot of people have said it. A lot of us say we're not going to do it, but when you see your kids starving, when you see that you can't go across town to go visit your daughter or your son or your cousin or your uncle, you can't go into a store, are we going to give in? Brian of High Impact Vlog says it very well. Liberty has to burn within you, it has to be a fire. Liberty or death. That's where we have to be. Oh, Nancy, you're a little afraid. Oh, lady, you're not the only one. You're not the only one. I might look tough. I might talk tough. I don't want to see this. I don't want to see my family go through it. I don't want to see my loved ones go through it. I don't want to see any of you go through it. I will say this. The scripture says that any person who receives the mark, God will throw away, right? Basically. Well, I wouldn't go that far. I'm not trying to give you an out here. I'm not trying to give you an out. I'm just saying that, the Jews, they have a saying, it's in the Talmud. It's very similar to the Quran. The Talmud and the Quran both say that you can lie. Talmud says you can lie to Goyim, and you can lie to save your life. I probably agree with the second one. But when it comes down to it, what's in your heart is what God's going to judge, not what happens to you necessarily. You know what I'm saying? It's what's in your heart. Look what General Flynn did. He sacrificed himself. He gave in to the corrupt system to protect his son. Jesus was crucified. He submitted to the Roman system, to their corrupt system, and to death itself to save us. I'm not giving you a way out. That's not what I'm doing here. I'm saying God will know the intents of your heart. Just stick close to Him. And He might say, don't take it. Don't take the vaccine. Don't take the test. He might say that to you, in which case, then you're obligated. Again, I'm not giving anybody a way out. I would rather walk out into the desert and just drop down dead than to submit to anything more that these evil people are doing. And I'm not kidding. Of course, a lot of you will say, well, just take a few of them with you. Well, that won't solve it. There are too many of them. God will raise up somebody eventually, but it's going to be in the parameters that I've talked about, where you're going to know for a surety that that's the case. There's not going to be any question in your mind, okay? Because we'll all be connected. The good folks will be connected. Yeah, Edelson James, good. God does not give you more than you can handle. And I believe that. Sometimes he pushes the envelope. There's a scripture in the Quran that actually says that too. It's kind of interesting. Yeah. God will not test a soul beyond its capacity. It even says that in the Quran. Can you believe that? If they ever grab me, that's the, threat. You better cite a quote from the Quran or we're going to cut your head off, and that's the one I'm going to give them. All right, let's see. Yeah. Remember, they're a third of the hosts of heaven that were cast out. Somebody's saying there are more of us than there are of them. Yes, I agree. They're mistreating God's children, and there are not many of them. And the scriptures talk about a third of the hosts of heaven were thrown out, right? A third of the angels were thrown out with Lucifer. And then in Revelations, it talks about that these wars will kill a third of mankind. What is the fraction of 666? Anybody know? What is 666? 0.666. What is that? Has anybody thought about this? The number of the man, number of his name, and it's 666. What is that? What's the fraction of 666? 2/3. 2/3. Isn't that interesting? A third of the world is going to be destroyed. The other 2/3. See, Satan is an imitator. Satan's an imitator. He takes what God does and he imitates it and he pushes it as his own with a tweak, with a lie, with a subversion, with a corruption. He knows that 2/3 of mankind is going to make it through this. So there are more of us than there are of him. He's trying to say he's the 2/3, and God's saying, okay, you want to be the 2/3? I'll tell you, I'll let you deceive yourself. It says it in the New Testament. God will send them strong delusion that they believe a lie. I'm not saying to take the mark, Johnny Doom. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that what's in your heart as to why you do it. Why did Jesus give himself over to the cross? I'm not saying to do it. I'm not going to do it. But I'm not here to tell anybody that you can't do it. You've got to make that decision on your own. I'm not going to give you an out necessarily, but I'm not going to tell you you have to either. I'm going to say it's up to you. God will judge you by the intent of your heart. That's all I'm saying. No, it doesn't say 2/3 will be taken. Or are you talking about the rapture or whatever? No, it says a third will. A third of men will be killed. A third of the hosts of heaven were thrown out of Satan. God saves most of. I mean, it's a remnant. There's a remnant that makes it, I guess you could say, all the way. But remember, if those days were not shortened, there would no flesh be saved. But those days shall be shortened. Okay, I don't want to talk any more scripture today. Yeah, Edelson James, I think you say it pretty well. I see my fate, not an easy one. No. And it wasn't easy getting scourged, lied about, your friends turning against him, his friends turning against him, lied about, called, Lucifer, called Satan himself, false teacher, given over to the religious authorities first, and then given over to the political power of Rome, beaten, humiliated, hung on a cross naked. Do you realize he was hung up there naked? It says in Psalms he can see all of his bones. They totally humiliated him. Are we any better than our master? All right. I guess we're done. My coffee's probably cold. Now, there was one difficulty with this cup. It's so big and there's no insulation, it cools off really fast. And if there's one thing, I don't like iced coffees. I like my coffee nice and warm. Almost, well, hot. Hot. It's right about where I can't handle it anymore. I'm going to have to go warm it up. That's all I got for you today. Thanks for coming, everyone. Keep your eyes on the horizon, your ears to the ground. Situational awareness on high, especially today and tomorrow. Something's going to happen somewhere, I'm reasonably convinced. Maybe they've just got a bunch of, people they're going to sacrifice and, rocks in the ground, caves in the ground. I don't know. But these couple days aren't going to go well. We're going to feel some disturbances in the spirits, in the spirit side of us, emotional side of us. And Trump's pushing for you to submit yourself to the mark of the beast. Wow. And he shall cause all, both great and small, bond and free, male and female, to receive the mark. He's assisting in that, ladies and gentlemen. There's no way to argue that any longer. There's no way to argue it. Okay. Thanks everybody for coming. Hopefully I don't mess this up. I have several times now when I've tried to do it right. Let's see if I can get it done right this time. I believe it's going to work. Okay. Like I said, keep yourselves prepared here. Get yourself some food, water, self-defense. Don't think you're going to take on the government. That's not what it's for. There's no way to do that. There'll be roving bands here. I mean, if this thing keeps going any longer, it's going to get worse. They've released how many thousands of prisoners from jail so that they have room, saying that they have to protect them from the Wuhan virus, but now they're arresting mothers and other people who are violating these shutdown orders. And Trump, he could protect us. Barr's out there with us. Oh, the Constitution isn't suspended during this. Okay, well, let's see you perp walk a few governors and mayors and law enforcement officers that are doing this. That's not going to happen. At least it hasn't yet, and I don't think it will. It's all words. It was like with Governor Northam admitting that he's killing babies after they're born. Trump did nothing. He could have sent the FBI in there right then. He could have sent the National Guard. Federalized the National Guard and sent them in there the way Eisenhower or Kennedy, I guess they both did, to Alabama when the rights of the blacks down there were being violated. You mess with the Constitution, you mess with the Bill of Rights, and the federal government can act. Actually, other jurisdictions, a sheriff could invoke his power and arrest anybody in his county that tries, if not the state. If they do something against the Constitution, they could actually take action. All right, I'm just rambling on now. Everybody have a great day, okay? I'm not sure when I'll see you again. Thank you for coming. It's wonderful to have you here. I really wanted to give this up a long time ago. Still hasn't happened. Okay, thanks a lot. We'll talk to you a little bit later. If something happens, I'll be back on to say something, okay? All right, out of here for now.